What's up, everyone? It's your channel, TFD, back with another video. And this time, it looks like Caitlin Clark's epic response to WNBA versus NBA nonsense and the future of her league. For this one, we're heading straight to Indy. So, buckle up, let's get it, let's go. Caitlin Clark was speaking at what I believe was a room full of doctors. Maybe all cardiovascular doctors, though I'm not entirely sure. But she was asked about the WNBA versus the NBA, and we're going to take a listen to her response. This is a really interesting conversation, and there are some key points here that we need to break down. So I'm going to roll the clip. It's about a minute long, and then we'll come back and discuss it. I promise I'll do my best not to interrupt and let it play all the way through. Here we go.
I'm not huge on comparing the WNBA to the NBA. I don't really think that's fair. Obviously, I think where the WNBA is right now is pretty incredible. I think a lot of people, or most people, would not believe it's in the place that it is right now. So I think when people always ask me this question, where I think it'll be in 5 years, it's it's hard for me to answer because people didn't even think we'd be right here, right now. And I think really sky's the limit. I think when you see, our TV numbers when we're on, national television, we're averaging over 1 million viewers or whatever it is. The All-Star game, I think, was over 4 million viewers. It's just really great numbers. So the more opportunities we're given, I think the more it's going to shine and get better and better. I think also the talent level in college is continuing to get a lot better, and as those players come into the league, and it's going to continue to improve. We're adding 2 new teams next year, and then probably another team year after that.
Some more games.
Yeah, more games, which I think will be good. It'll lengthen the season a little bit more.
All right, a few things on that. First of all, when he mentioned more teams and more games, that's a huge point that doesn't get talked about enough. The NBA plays well over double the number of games compared to the WNBA. Next season, the WNBA will have 44 games. They just played 40 this past season. And if I'm not mistaken, they've only been playing that many for the last few years. On top of that, the NBA has a much longer playoff schedule, way more games on TV, and a ton more opportunities for media rights and ad revenue. That's what really drives player salaries in these leagues. Ticket sales are great, but at this level, they're not the biggest factor in how these leagues generate revenue. Maybe for smaller leagues, it plays a bigger role, but for major leagues like the NBA and WNBA, it's all about those media deals. Now, I really respect the way Caitlin handled this. She made it clear she doesn't like to compare the two leagues, and I think that's a really smart approach. And just to make sure everyone caught what she said, since there was some echo in the room, we're going to go through these key points and break them down. One thing that really stood out to me was how she addressed it compared to others, like Natasha Cloud demanding, "We want our money and we want now," or Angel Reese and others saying, "If we don't get everything we want, we're sitting out." That's not how real negotiations work. So yeah, she says, "I'm not huge on comparing the WNBA to the NBA. I don't think that's fair." And I respect that. She also talked about how incredible it is that the WNBA is in the position it is right now. Because honestly, most people wouldn't have expected it to be here. And I just have to say, Caitlin Clark is incredibly well-spoken and extremely humble. She brought up TV ratings, acknowledging that no one would have expected the league to be where it is today. But let's be real, the biggest reason it is where it is right now is because of Caitlin Clark. Without her, the WNBA's ratings would still be under 400,000, and this past season wouldn't have looked any different from the last 27 or 28 years. That's something the players really need to keep in mind, especially when it comes to CBA negotiations and how they handle themselves publicly. Because the reality is, without Caitlin, the ship sinks, no matter how good things may seem on the surface. And what makes this even crazier is that this comes right after Angel Reese and others made comments about CBA negotiations, basically saying, "Give us what we want or else." That's just not the right approach. Now, the union is looking to drastically increase salaries for its players and close the gap with the NBA again. But let's be real. Right now, the minimum WNBA contract stands at around $64,000. You can't compare that to the NBA, a league that's been around for decades longer and generates around $8 billion a year in revenue, while the WNBA just maybe hit $200 million for the first time ever. It's absurd to compare the two. if they get the new CBA done, I believe it will take effect in 2026, the same year the new media rights deal kicks in. That's why it's crucial for the players to enter these negotiations with a reasonable approach. With the new media rights deal, there's a chance for players to get more money. But let's be honest, the whole thing is on shaky ground without Caitlin Clark. One thing I'd add is that Caitlin should be involved in these negotiations. And I'm not saying that just because she's the face of the league, or because she can go in there and start making demands. It's not about her knowing every single detail of how a multi-hundred-million-dollar professional basketball league operates. It's about her reasonableness and how well-spoken she is. She should be the face, the spokesperson in these negotiations. The players can handle all their own discussions behind the scenes, but when it comes time to actually speak and represent the league, Caitlin should be the one out front. That would be huge for the WNBA and give them a much better chance of getting what they want while actually making progress. Because let's be clear, if 2026 comes and the WNBA isn't in a strong position, or worse, if there's no league at all, that would be an absolute disaster. Caitlin Clark's approach to this whole situation is completely different from the "if y'all don't give us what we want, we're sitting out" stance. And honestly, her approach has way more of a chance of actually getting things done. Even if she starts by asking for the same things as the other players, she'd at least be open to finding common ground, working things out, and actually helping grow the league. Then, of course, we had the wild comments from Caitlin Clark's agent, talking about how she's part of a larger player body and how everyone needs to be paid more. But the real question is, why do they need to be paid more? Can we just use math, basic economics, and common sense to break this down? Because let's be honest, this whole "they deserve more" argument is purely based on the men versus women debate, which is absolute nonsense. Here's a perfect example. Look at soccer. The English Premier League, EPL, is arguably the biggest soccer league in the world. It's part of Europe's top 5 alongside leagues in Germany, Spain, France, and Italy. Then you have Major League Soccer, MLS, in the US. MLS players don't get paid anywhere near what EPL players make. Why? Because the EPL is massive. It generates way more revenue than MLS does. And here's the key, they're all men. They all play the same sport. Yet the pay difference is huge simply because of how much money each league brings in. So this idea that WNBA players need to be paid more just because, it just doesn't hold up. It's really that simple. Yeah, I just thought this was really interesting, especially the contrast after what Angel Reese just said. Caitlin Clark not making that comparison was honestly refreshing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think the chances are of a lockout or strike actually happening? And before I wrap this up, I'll leave you with one last thought. I already gave you the soccer example, but here's something else I've noticed. Whenever people bring up these pay gap arguments, nobody ever talks about male and female models. Because let's be real, top female models get paid way more than the top male models do. And I, for one, think it's completely unfair. Those guys are doing the same job, putting in the same work. Where's their money? But hey, I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for checking out the video. I appreciate it as always. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.